Alright, welcome back to Combat Chat Podcast. It's your boys here, Shane, Hugh, Trent. How are we, fellas?
Good.
It's cold.
Cold?
Yeah, it's a little cold.
It is a bit cold though, isn't it? It was like, well, when we were like in the gym this morning, it was like humid.
Yeah, it was nice though.
Yeah.
It was nice outside.
That coffee you gave me saved my life. I've been surfing for an hour and a half and I got a fractured ankle out of it. And I was so cold. And then Hugh goes, "Here's a coffee for you, sir."
Happy to do what I can.
Thank you.
Yes, definitely. But other than that, it's like, running on pretty well. Haven't got any further restrictions put on anything across the combat realm at the moment in New South Wales.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Oof, yeah.
Touch wood, things seem to be. I don't know. I think we're at a point where, like, I guess people are pretty fucking sick of talking about it. But, like, we're kind of at a point where it feels like we can, like, there's really no word on when we progress back to 100% normal. But it feels like we can stay here for a while, right? Like, here is okay. We can kind of, like, train and stuff, as we have been.
We can hold, like, a holding pattern here.
Yeah, here is good. If we can stay here for, like, it's obviously not going to be back 100% normal for a little bit longer. But if we can stay where we are, like, training's normal, life's normal, it's just events that we can't have.
Yeah.
Which, like, we'd all like that. But,
We'd like to.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like...
but like, at worst, at least we can train fully. Train with contact, train with problem. So.
Yeah, be thankful for what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is episode 127 anyway from there. No guests or anything like that today, and so we're just going to do our usual rambling on. There's like a few things to talk about. Like, it's like, you know, we had Zoe on last week. They had a really great response in that one. Like, is like looking at like the Spotify and iTunes kind of listening from, it was like down most of the time from like a normal listening, but the YouTube like sprang up like, you know, 500% from that one. So
yeah, people like Zoe.
Cheeky boys like to look at Zoe. Don't blame her. She's a very beautiful girl. So from here, let's talk about some of the stuff that's coming up. So there's a one card coming up next week.
Yes.
So we won't get another podcast before that's out, so we'll talk about there. So, and one seems to be running mainly in Bangkok for the next few shows now. Yeah. And it's a pretty killer lineup as well. Like, you know, straight out the gates, pretty hard and fast.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, so one championship announced that they were coming back, but the plan I thought was like kind of a spread across Asia of crowdless shows. But then it was only this week. Was it this week? Sometime like this week or last week, they came out to say that they'd changed plans again, and through the end of September, there's going to be about 6 shows just in Bangkok. So I guess they're kind of doing a similar thing that the UFC's done. Like, they'll set up shop in one arena, do it crowdless, and just kind of get busy again doing that, which is cool. I like that because I think with closed borders, like, I guess I can understand, like, with closed borders, you have the most available fighters in Bangkok. Like, I think one go to a lot of places, but basically every card they do in Asia has like a handful of fighters from Thailand. So Thailand's probably the best place to, if you can't fly fighters in, the best place to do fights. And I love it because I think it means the shows will mostly be Muay Thai. So, like, that's what it looks like. Like, the first show lineup is absolutely unreal. So it's going to be, I can never remember who the actual main events are because there's enough that could be made of. I think it's headlined by Rotang versus Petchdam.
Yeah. That's
a trilogy fight for Rotang's one flyweight Muay Thai title. Co-headliner is going to be Petchmorakot versus Yodsanklai for the 70 kilo Muay Thai title. Like, other co-headliner, like third on the bill.
I don't think so, but like it looks like itself. Like, if I'm looking at the card here, I'm counting off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights that kind of just announced there. Would that be the whole card?
I think that might be the whole card, like a 6 or 7 fight card.
I think that's a nice kind of lead. Like,
that's
good. It's
yeah.
just like you don't get like, you know, one sometimes like there's a million.
6 hour event.
Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah,
it's too long.
But if you do like 5 fight card and it's like, it's good, I really like it.
So that's it. That's what they're doing. Just the
it looks
5
like
fights.
Yeah. But third on the bill is going to be another trilogy fight between Super Bond and Siddhartha, 70 kilos kickboxing. That's a sweet fight. And then you've also got Super Lek versus Pampayak, which is an unreal like stadium quality fight. Who else am I getting? There's a couple of MMA fights that I don't know. Stan Fairtex is going to do MMA.
Just gloss it over.
Another MMA fight that I think is a bit higher quality, but I'm not super familiar with it.
So, Mark Tex Albero versus Fabricio Andrade.
Yeah, like I'm sure that's a higher end fight. I just don't really follow the MMA fight times. Anything I'm forgetting on that?
No, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all, yeah. So this is just like a really, really sweet lineup. Like I think it's kind of some of the match. Like every match is amazing, but as far as how the title fights are concerned, some of them are a little bit strange. Like I believe Petchdam is coming off a loss of his kickboxing title. He was holding the kickboxing title in that weight class and will now sort of switch codes and fight Rotang for the Muay Thai title. An interesting match because the two have fought twice before. Rotang won the first time they fought, and then a little bit later, Petchdam beat him most recently. They fought at Rotang Stadium 2018, I'm pretty sure. It's an interesting match because their most recent fight's probably the best one to go off as far as the style match is concerned. It was a pretty close fight. Like, it was a little bit of a coin flip fight. Like, both guys did a lot of damage. Like, Rotang very much had to bank on his hands in that fight, was really trying to walk Petchdam downstream. And he was connecting a lot, but Petchdam probably outsmarted Rotang a little bit. And Rotang, for how incredible he is, he can be outsmarted. Like, we saw that recently against Ghana when the two of them fought at Raja Stadium. Rotang, he only has one direction. He just presses forward. And, like, Petchdam's a pretty aggressive stylist as well. It's just that Petchdam's, like, a big high kicker, so he will kind of just slide back to the ropes and just get that kick coming up across Rotang's guard. And Rotang, like, Rotang is a much smarter fighter than he's given credit for, but he can be drawn into kind of just, like, a battle too much. Like, he just kind of brings his hands low. He doesn't really care about it.
So he's like, has too much fun.
Has too much fun, yeah. That can be the problem with Rotang. Yeah, he really likes the scrap. And it was like, when Rotang can get in close to Petchdam, he can do some good work. Like, his left hook's unreal. But he doesn't really pay a lot of attention to how the points are working. Like, Petchdam can land that kick as Rotang's coming in, and Rotang's not thinking about the scores to getting banked up against him. He's just thinking about what's going to happen when he gets in close, which is probably was his undoing that most recent time against Petchdam. But I find this is actually the case with a few of these fights. We'll get into it. It's like form is a really important consideration. So, like, you can look what happened the last time they fought and kind of give the edge to Petchdam, but I think you've got to consider where they've both been at. So Rotang is coming off a recent loss. I don't think he's fought since he fought Ghana, but that's very stylistically different. Overall, the run that Rotang's on, they're in different places, especially if you just kind of isolate it back to one championship, because we'll touch on this a little bit in the further fights. Like, it's almost fighting in a different sport, or in a different rule set, fighting in one. Like, it is different. And all the Muay Thai fights wear little gloves now, so they'll be fighting in 4 and 10 or 8 gloves.
In the cage?
I think it'll probably be in a ring. I'm not sure. I was thinking this before we started. A lot of the time I think every time they've been in Bangkok, it's been in a ring. Like I was at one this year.
Sense.
Yeah, I went to one this year, and I don't get it. I think one has to, like, I like that one has decided which gloves different fights wear, because that was really dumb for a while. Like, some of the Muay Thai fights would wear 8 or 10 ounce gloves, and some would wear the MMA gloves. Like, whether or not you like the MMA gloves for Muay Thai fights or you don't, I understand the argument on both sides. But you have to have, it's got to be standardised. Like, you can't do, like, you know, if you've had a couple of fights in regular boxing gloves and then you're expected to fight for the title in little gloves, like, it doesn't make any sense going back. It's a different game, is basically my point. Like, the sport changes a lot when you put different gloves on it. So, yeah, point of that being, the two will fight in little gloves, which is the key difference, obviously, between them fighting in the stadiums that they have. I think you have to give the edge in anyone. In any match, it probably favours Rotang a bit more to be in those little gloves. Like, just that big punching style and that sort of, I wouldn't say, like, the way that he doesn't have, like, a traditional defensive style. His defence is quite good, but it's an aggressive defence. It's like he knows how to march forward and put himself in positions where he's difficult to hit, but it's not like he's sitting back and being really tricky, covering the hands, putting on a long guard. It's not a defensive style that relies on, like, the size and build of an 8-ounce glove. So I think the gloves will favour Rotang compared to when they fought in the stadiums. But I also think the style of one championship, like, it's not stadium scoring. It's going to favour that aggression a little bit more. Not, in that full kind of Max Muay Thai entertainment style, but it's got a little bit. It's not traditional Thai scoring per se. Walking forward will help. I think that favours Rotang. And just form, like I mentioned earlier, like Rotang has been on an absolute tear in one championship, whereas Petchdam, his last couple of fights, despite being kickboxing bouts, have kind of looked like he's starting to fall off a little bit. Or he's just he's hit a slump, I guess. It's probably not fair to say he's falling off. But he's in a little bit of a slump. So you've got like Petchdam kind of rocketed through one championship when he first got there, scored some wicked KOs. They set him up for that kickboxing title, looked good for a while. And then he had that fight. Who did he fight when, the one that ended by a groin kick? And it was kind of just weird. Like he
Elias Mahmoudi?
Yeah, Elias Mahmoudi, yeah. When he fought Mahmoudi, he was getting work, not worked, but he was getting given like a good stiff challenge and then just sent that ridiculous left kick into Mahmoud's balls.
And before that as well, they were over each other.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's just really weird fight. Was it Mahmoudi that opened with the elbow?
I think so.
Yeah, just bizarre. But also like really stiff challenge for Petchdam in that fight. And then the fight had to it was really bizarre. The fight had to get called off because Petchdam kicked Mahmoudi in the balls. But then they went to a technical decision because it was over the halfway point because it was in round 4. And then Petchdam got given the win. But even on its own, the win was kind of controversial. Like, I think you could definitely make the argument that Mahmoudi was up on the cards. And then they didn't do a rematch. They matched Petchdam with Enahachi, who is now the champion because he, kind of just exposed some pretty big holes in Petchdam's game. And won by KO, just like really knew how to kind of offset Petchdam's balance with a few of those little trips and kind of like that lower body work, and then kind of forced Petchdam to didn't give him that space to set his kicks because like Petchdam's game is tremendously difficult to deal with, but it's not a lot of weapons, right? Like in one championship, it's been kind of just like he gets his rhythm and starts firing that left kick off, and like good luck dealing with it. And it's just he used some really tricky footwork to never let Petchdam comfortably set his feet to throw the kick and forced him to sit and box. Like that was the difference and kind of exposed some holes for, especially for kickboxing in his overall boxing game. It's more so like we don't have, like Petchdam can punch, but we've never had to see him box, like actually sit in the pocket and box, and that's where, because he just relies on the kick. But Enahachi knew how to use his feet to make Petchdam box him, and then being there. So it's kind of like you've got one guy who, within this one championship format, is really surging in Rotang. Like his wins over Haggerty, wins over Wontagon has really looked like he's like one is Rotang's hunt. Like it's like the style and the rule set and stuff was just really designed for him. And then you've got Petchdam who's came and made a big splash and has kind of been coming down. So I think for me, looking at this fight, there's a lot of unknowns when two guys who have fought in the stadiums go on to fight in one. Like I mentioned, I think based on where they're both at, I'd lean towards Rotang right now. Seems to have made a move to Fairtex as well. They came out and said like he hasn't moved gyms, his affiliation is still Jiu-Jitsu. But he's pretty obviously been training at Fairtex. So like that'll be interesting to see like kind of sort of if he's doing his kind of training, if he's mixing it up a little bit, doing things a bit kind of in like Jiu-Jitsu very much like a very Thai gym. A bit of that kind of Western influence can be a positive thing for sure in the one championship format that's a bit more internationally judged and there's kind of a wide spread of fighting style. So I'll be interested to see kind of if Rotang looks. I don't know if he'll look. I don't think Rotang's going to look different. I think Rotang just does Rotang at this point. It's pretty fair to say that. But I think for where they're both at, I would lean towards Rotang. But this is one of the biggest coin flip fights for me on this card. I think like there's just a lot of unknowns with like them coming into this format, where they're both at in their form and stuff like that. So yeah, probably leaning Rotang's way. I kind of figured I actually have to pick these fights now because I usually just go, that'll be good. Leaning Rotang's way right now, but
is there odds set somewhere? Yeah.
I should look. Yeah.
Would you go on sports bet? Does sports bet cover one or not?
There'd be odds in Thailand. But I don't know who the favourite is. I think if I was making the odds, I would make Rotang the favourite because of current form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And on the other guy.
and like we said, little gloves saves Rotang a little bit, the rule set. And also, the other thing that people I think people with one championship doing kickboxing and Muay Thai, they kind of forget that they're distinctly different arts. Like, when you've been over fighting kickboxing for a while, it's a big ask to then switch around and go back to fight a current sort of elite level Muay Thai fighter in their own rules.
Yeah, just rule hopping.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that probably makes me lean towards Rotang, is he's been fighting full Thai rules. It'll be interesting as well, because Rotang, like, I think they were teasing this fight when they were, like, there's a reason that they had Petchdam go and do kickboxing and Rotang go and do Muay Thai, so they could have a title each in the same weight class. But I think they were kind of teasing the idea that Rotang would go to kickboxing and kind of try to win the other belt. So now that it's kind of like, didn't really go that way because Petchdam lost his title, and now they obviously need to make matches of people within Thailand. So it's kind of like something they were building towards. So the story didn't go the way they wanted it to, but we still ended up here. So yeah, it's sick fight and leaning towards Rotang, but I think it's a 50-50 fight, because like Petchdam kind of being in a little bit of a slump and now coming back to his original rule set, that could be a positive. Like, this could be kind of like the sort of jump start that he needs. So yeah, leaning Rotang's way, but really good fight.
Yeah, definitely. Like, touching on, again, like, Rotang pretty much making more of a move to Fairtex from there. Do you reckon he's trying to set himself up to go into, like, MMA?
I have seen videos of Rotang doing Jiu-Jitsu. In a gi, yeah.
Good man.
So maybe, like, it seems to be kind of the thing, like, his girlfriend Stan has done that out of Fairtex, like.
And it's all grappling coach. They got DJ Jackson as their basically grappling coordinator.
No, Fairtex have a legit MMA program. Like one of the, like, I think it's still building for sure, but I think Fairtex are going to come out as one of, like, Asia's premier MMA camps. So
see Tiger Muay Thai, I can do that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like, and they still, I think the difference between Fairtex and another place like Tiger Muay Thai is Tiger Muay Thai were never an authentically Thai camp. Like, they were sort of a purpose-built international camp. Like, really, it's always kind of been Tiger MMA, more so. Whereas Fairtex still have, like, elite stadium fighters. Like, they've still got, like, Cruz and Fairtex, and they're still committed to running a stadium Muay Thai program, like an authentic Muay Thai program alongside their MMA, which I think is an asset. So yeah, look, and for something like Rotang, people ask, like, people have asked me that a few times, like, do you think Rotang's going to go to MMA? How many Muay Thai fights has he had, right? Like, and he's, like, absolutely run shot over so many Muay Thai fighters in one now. Like, I could understand him wanting to go and get another challenge out of it. I think it'd be, but then at the same time, like.
And I guess, like, if you're going to do it in one as well, because, like, they'll actually feed you up. And, like, because if you went to UFC, like, there's a lot of times you find there's no feeding, like, you just get kind of brought in and slaughtered to the land, especially if you come from somewhere like one.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like the weird thing about stand-up fighters in general moving to MMA, because we've seen some, like, absolutely woeful attempts at it. But, like, if someone, say, like, for example, Joe Schilling was a high-level kickboxer who he had done some MMA, but he was just sort of hopping over from kickboxing. Like, he was sort of expected to fight at the top end of Bellator MMA just when he flipped over, and he got laid out as a result of it. Like, he fought Rafael Carvalho in his second fight for them. Like, it's a big step up. Like, I don't really understand why your Muay Thai or your kickboxing record. I can understand why you can't start at the very beginning, but I don't really get this idea that you just sort of move over to the top end. Like, it doesn't really make any sense. It's not conducive to any kind of development. But that does seem to be the way it goes. So yeah, like, if Rotang went to MMA, they would kind of develop him into MMA, and that could be. Plus, especially training at a camp like Fairtex. So it's an interesting idea. And he's got the style for it, more so than a lot of Thais. Like, that very aggressive. He already experienced fighting in little gloves. Like, I think, I wouldn't like to fight Rotang.
No, definitely not.
But, good fight. Yeah, maybe we get Rotang in MMA down the line. But we'll move down to the semi-main.
Yeah.
The co-main event. This is probably the funniest match on the card because it's very much like a legacy title shot for Yodsanklai. Yodsanklai came into one championship as one of the biggest signings, like one of the most exciting signings, and then for our guy Lewis Regis and had a really strong win over him. Then has kind of gone into kickboxing. So I think he maybe had one fight before Lewis. I haven't looked at his one record.
Yeah, he did. Like, I can't... Oh, God, I can't remember.
He fought Sauer. Yeah.
He fought Nupigimbi as well.
Yeah, so he had a couple, for Christian Gibby in a rematch. Yeah. Fought Sauer, fought Lewis in full title rules. And then kind of hit a bit of a... Like, he got upset twice. He fought Sammy Sana in the kickboxing GP in that night of upset. And yeah, Sammy Sana just fucking switched it on that night. It's just too much volume. Knocked Yod down in the second round and just really snatched that fight away from him. And then... I really should have looked this up, but the Russian gentleman, whose name I've forgotten, that Yodsanklai fight, that was a very surprising one. But also a bit like, just not kind of it was a late replacement fight. Yod stepped up in weight a little bit. I think it was supposed to be 70, and he met his late replacement, 73. Just not the kind of conditions that you put a legend. Like if this was something like, the UFC, like for people who don't really know, if you just watch like MMA, Yodsanklai is like, GSP or like whoever, like anyone like that.
In terms of even like a international known.
Yeah, as far as absolute superstar, but also like can't fuck with his resume. You wouldn't see GSP signing up for a fight. Even like late career GSP, let's say like the GSP that came back, and then getting told like the week of the fight you've got a different opponent and you're stepping up 3 kilos. You wouldn't see that, right? Like, but it's just different. Like. They just have a different mentality. But yeah, he got laid out in that fight.
It's Jamal Yusupov.
Where's he from?
Russia.
He is Russia? Yeah, I thought Russia. But that's like, yeah.
So the name Jamal?
Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure if I was wrong. Yeah, Yusupov.
Sounds like a basketball player.
Yeah, Yusupov's like good up and coming though. And yeah, just very surprisingly pieced Yodsanklai. But now we've got Yodsanklai. Worth understanding that I think both those fights were kickboxing that Yod lost, so it's kind of like he had a big win in Muay Thai, foray into kickboxing for a couple of fights and lost, so it's not like he's getting the shot. You have to take the rule set into consideration. Still, bit of a funny time to be putting Yodsanklai into a title fight. I don't believe this fight would be made if the borders were open. I think they would kind of build Yodsanklai a little bit more. And I think a really tough fight. But this is the other thing you've got to think about. Ignoring rule sets, you've got Yodsanklai coming off 2 very shocking and really difficult defeats, and Petchmorakot's in like career best form. I'd like to see Yodsanklai do really well in this fight. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, but Yodsanklai's just such a legend, and I love his style. But also, Yodsanklai's been fighting kickboxing for the last few years. He came back and did some full titles fights for one, but he's kind of a shifted kickboxer now. If you look at like his style, like and the tools that he's made work for him, like it's very much kickboxing adapted. And Petchmorakot is a very difficult Thai stylist to fight. Like Petchmorakot has some legit wins. He was the last person to beat Senchai in the major stadiums, and he just has that kind of just annoyingly aggressive Muay Thai style. It's just that ugly, likes to really rip into the clinch, hit that long frame over you and kind of lock on and shut you down at the knees. It's that style that he just overwhelms you with volume and sits his weight over you. And it's a style where he just keeps coming and just doesn't give you the space to do what you want to do and tires you out. And I think for where Yodsanklai's been at, if you look at the way that Sammy Sana fight went, it was kind of different because of the different rule sets, but it had that similar kind of tempo to it, that it's just like put your foot on the gas and don't give Yodsanklai the time and the space to get his power shots off, because you just need to be on the outside or on the inside of Yod's left kick. But if you're like anywhere along the length of his leg, you're in some trouble, right? Or his lead hand, like that.
Yeah,
that
rips those right hands.
Yeah, really good, aggressive. Like he really likes that lead hook, that uppercut.
Yeah, it's a good shot.
Yeah, that's a sweet shot. But it's like Yodsanklai's kind of also the point where it's like the blueprint is written on him. It's just about being game enough to kind of weather the storm a little bit, go through. So I can see this being kind of like a very much like a Muay Thai style performance from Petchmorakot and kind of just overwhelming Yod. But you never know, like, especially with like just like someone like Petchmorakot who needs to close the space to do what he does well against Yodsanklai. That gives Yodsanklai a chance in and of itself. So like, yeah, same thing. Question marks. Like that's kind of going to be. That's going to be the big thing to watch here is how does Petchmorakot navigate that middle ground and what does Petchmorakot do? Because you got to go through it, right? That's like you got to go through the minefield. And it's like, how does Yodsanklai keep Petchmorakot where he wants and how, like what kind of pace does Petchmorakot apply? Like, do you just roll the dice and kind of just track forward or do you kind of try to be a little bit more, tricky to try to make Yodsanklai come to you and sort of tie up those hands a little bit more? So, yeah, interesting one to watch. I can definitely, I'm leaning Petchmorakot's way here, but would love to be surprised.
Yeah, well, it's like, especially with Petchmorakot's side, especially in his last couple of bouts from there, like, as soon as he gets in there, he's just got a mean, like, knee to the body lead in.
And it's once, like, if they can tie up early, like, Petchmorakot's style is almost designed to gas you. Like, that was what, if you watch Petchmorakot's most recent fight with Sancho was frustrated. Like, he just didn't have room to do all of these kind of like flashy moves that he likes. He just spent the whole fight kind of trying to fend Petchmorakot off. And then every time they broke, Sancho was just that little bit more tired, that little bit more frustrated. And then it's just going again. So that's the style that Petchmorakot needs to do, just get his foot on the gas. And especially in a 5-round fight, like, Yodsanklai was looking pretty tired at the end of that Sami Sana fight. But then, like, that's the other question mark. Like, I try to be a little bit more technical in my analysis of the fights, but there are intangibles. Like, maybe for Yodsanklai, like, he goes on these really long win streaks. Like, maybe these fights could be enough to show. But, I mean, like, maybe this was kind of what I thought after the Sami Sana fight, that there's been two kind of fights now for Yodsanklai that have looked like this. But I guess he also got caught in his spot fight. But, like, maybe this is a fight that kind of reignites that fire in Yodsanklai and makes him realise that he's human and he needs to, he can't just, like, the guys he's fighting are hungry and are talented. He can't just sort of, he's got to put his own foot on the gas. He can't just, like, sit back and let it happen. He's, like, these guys will take it. Like, maybe he's reaching the levelling out point where he's got to kind of start clicking into gear again. Because you never know, sometimes people reach that legend status and they start to get a little bit lazy in their training and a little bit complacent, maybe.
And like, especially for like Yodsanklai now, was it born in 1985? That one, it's like he's been at it for a minute. It's like it's a long career. It's not it's not like he started in his 20s.
Yeah.
And like Petchmorakot from there's been at it a long time as well. But 10 years difference.
10 years difference.
It does. Like,
it makes a big difference. And fighting elites for as long as Yodsanklai has been as well. Like, yeah, I think it could be like. That's been kind of the discourse has been like, is Yodsanklai like going to reignite his fire? It's like, there comes a point where it's kind of just over and Yodsanklai could be reaching the end. Where, well, look, Yodsanklai is reaching the end. No, like, that's just how it is. But, like, does he have another big run in him? That's the question. Yeah. Maybe. There's no reason to say.
It's like this title shot, it's just like, it might be this last glimmer of opportunity because, like you said, he probably would, if this wasn't Corona period from there, he might not got this fight. Yeah. Sure do.
Yeah, so interesting fight. On current form, the style, like, yeah, I got to put Yodsanklai as a fairly sizable underdog, probably, but not out of the question that he pulls this one out. Would love to see it, but yeah, it remains to be seen. One of the most interesting fights will keep moving for men's fights. It's a trilogy fight between Superpon and Sidichai. This is excellent, and this is another one that I'll touch on this idea as a whole at the end, but like, we got given a fight we wouldn't have been given because of the lockdown situation, like with the borders being shut. Like, if you can find a plus in this whole situation, it's this, because they wouldn't have had this fight. Like, two of their biggest acquisitions, and this is where we can tie this into like Glory going bankrupt. Glory couldn't put this together. They couldn't afford to get Superpon back over from China. And they had Sidichai, and like, this was just a fight that, like, it's silly to think these two dudes can be 1-1 against each other and both champions of separate organisations and the fight's nowhere near being made. But yeah, this is a really good fight between probably the two top Muay Thai to kickboxing crossovers in the world at the moment. I think that would probably be a fair statement. Sidichai, long-time Glory champion, very impressive kickboxer, but I do think he's been fighting like for himself, probably a pretty boring level of opposition. Like, he's great to watch, but like we saw him these first couple of fights in Glory, like he won that tournament. He was coming out aggressive. And he iced David Kiria with that really nice, like, straight left to the body, step up, left knee. Just really good. But it was that classic Thai fighting sort of B-class opposition overseas where he would just kind of sit there and left kick and, like, no one could really get around it. Just, like, the timing on it and the speed. And he's not going to do more than he has to. But he's in interesting territory because he had 4 victories over Marat Grigorian. To the point where Glory made a 5th fight, and it's like, we're going to do this again. And then Marat snuck it out at the end. Got a decision win in like a pretty like uncharacteristically scrappy fight from Sidichai. So, not exactly sure what the story was there. If it was just like a complacency thing. But Marat Grigorian on the 5th try managed to snatch Sidichai.
Play the odds, man.
Yeah.
He's got to get one, at least one. Sometime.
But so, Sidichai's coming over from Glory, but he's not coming over as the champion. He had that run derailed at the end. He's had a fight since Marat, but kind of like a B-level-ish sort of fight in Macau. It was nothing huge. Superbon is Borkow's protege. Trains out of the same camp. I don't think that he's at Banchamek anymore, but I believe I think he still uses that name. He's been training with that trainer Jay at they'll be training
It's that huge tie.
at Super Pro in
Beats
Samui.
the shit out of you.
Kicking watermelons off his head.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, actually, I want to touch on this for a second. Everyone was sharing this video, like, look, it's Super Bond. Like, he closed his eyes as well, which is like fair play for that trust. Okay, he smashed a watermelon and kicked it off the trainer's head. But no one's talking about how the trainer balanced the watermelon on his head.
CGI.
No, it's just sitting there on the top. He has a pretty flat head.
Yeah.
That's a round ass watermelon.
But it's not like one of those Japanese square watermelons.
Yeah. I didn't get it. Like, I just didn't get it.
It's like, everyone's looking past the fact here.
Yeah, because he's just sitting there like this. And then, like, just with the watermelon just balancing on his head. That was the overlooked part of the video. But anyway. A Borkow protege and very much following the footsteps of Borkow has had, like, an unreal kickboxing career. And, like, the difference between the two in Superbon and Sidichai is Sidichai was, like, one of the very best in his generation in Muay Thai. It was, like, a ridiculously accomplished stadium fighter. And Superbon had his stadium days as well, but he was similar to Borkow. He was not like a best of the best stadium guy. He's actually probably more accomplished as a kickboxer, which is less common. We don't see that as much. But probably actually less known to fans that aren't really, really into it because he's been in China. So he's been fighting very, very high level opposition. But just in that slightly less accessible format. He also fought Marat Grigorian, who actually, Marat Grigorian's like been on a bit of a comeback run. The last couple of years, this was probably a couple of years ago now, but they had also fought, and Superbon was kind of just that little bit too smart for Marat Grigorian. Not too smart for him, but just a little bit too sharp on the night. And then they fought again in the finals of the Kunlun fight, Max, and Marat caught Superbon and chinned him. So since then, this is a difference. So both of their most recent losses, Marat Grigorian on his current run, so he needs to go to one. I'm a Marat Grigorian fan.
Yeah, where else are you going to go?
Yeah.
As we talk.
But difference being Superbon then took his talents to Europe and went and actually took out Infusion. So he did the kind of Infusion tournament thing and won that. So has a lot more wins on the trot since then. Whereas Sidichai kind of lost that fight to Marat. I actually think Sidichai lost the Marat fight. I think a big part of it was just boredom. Like he was just...
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been just going for do I really have to get up and train as much?
Yeah, I think there's an element of that for sure. And then, kind of just has been quiet. Popped up in one fight, but you wouldn't have heard about it. Like on a pretty small show in China. Whereas, Superman had that real upset loss by knockout, but has been just right back to winning ways. Like, he would have had 8 or 9 wins since then. Yeah, interesting fight. They fought twice before, in 2015 and 2016 in China for Kunlun. Interesting, like when these two are having exchanges, it's absolute tit for tat. It's just, like they both have that nicely adapted kickboxing style. Like they're busy, like they know how to kickbox and not just do Muay Thai in a kickboxing setting. And it's very like they both have their weapons. Like Superbon is like his big long higher kick. Like Sidichai likes that left kick really coming into the body, whereas Superbon likes to sit up nice and tall and kind of put it over the glove where he can. And it was really interesting their first fight. And they also like to go knee versus kick. It's kind of like Sidichai likes that step up knee, whereas Superbon likes to let that come through, make space, and come back with his right kicks. It's an opposite stance fight. But one of Superbon's kind of like real moves that he brought into kickboxing with him that works well is he likes to throw that kick up high, but just touch with it and then sit back down and drive his right hand down the middle. But when he does that, it's that very tight kind of right hand, like different to a traditional boxing one. But that's it. He comes up very tall when he throws the kick and then almost punches down. Sort of Damien Trainer likes this one, that touch the kick and throw the punch kind of. Like, it works well for a Thai stylist in kickboxing because so much of it is just wear the kick over the arms and come back into punch. So what he does is he kind of just touches with that kick, pulls himself back with it and lets you run onto his hand. But Sidichai had it kind of figured out. And Sidichai kind of like let that kick come up and didn't chase too much, just kind of sat. And Sidichai really likes, quite similar to Yodsanklai actually, really likes a tight lead right hook, like just coming off of his lead side. So he kind of just let that kick come up, and as Superbon kind of comes up from his guard to drive the punch, just drove like this really tight right hook down and floored him. Couldn't answer the count. Yeah, really nice shot, but it was kind of like that tit for tat fight, and then Sidichai just had to play it on that KO. But then when they rematched, more similar to the start of that fight, like good from luck scoring that. It was just so tit for tat, with a lot of the same kind of maneuvers. Superbon, yeah, like definitely brought a little bit more to the table in that second fight. It wasn't as easy for Sidichai to like play, but I'm pretty sure two of the scores, it was a 5-judge system. I think two of the scores were like 30-29. Like 2 draw rounds, one swung it. Yeah, like that's how close these fights are. Like it's so difficult to pick. This one, I will probably lean towards Superbon. I'll just make a pick based on, like Sidichai knocked him out in the past, then kind of so close, but Superbon was just that tiny little bit sharper to win the points and edge it out. In the second one, and I think it's been kind of more of the same from Superbon stylistically. He has been fighting a slightly higher level of opposition and has been busier recently in the same rule set. So yeah, I'm going to lean Superbon's way in this one, but same thing.
But the harder pick of the night.
That's a hard pick, yeah. Mm-hmm. Next one, I'll talk about one more. I'll talk about Superlex with Kampaya because I really, really like this one.
Yeah, probably like people that are not initiated into the Muay Thai world, like, this is a fight definitely not to miss either on the card.
Yeah, 100%. Like probably less international name value for both. Both have been in one before though, but these guys are real close to their prime even within the stadiums. Pampayak's actually both actually you can say, but Pampayak really stands out as one of the best fighters of the modern day. This is what I like about One Championship as much as anything else. This is a really good offer. Like, there's a lot of people in Muay Thai that know they like Muay Thai, but they go, where do I start? How do I follow it? For me, what I've been saying to people is when you see, like, a big-name Thai presented in One Championship, use it as an opportunity to go back and kind of study up from there. Because, like, this is a great fight. Because if you search Pampayak versus Superlek into YouTube, shouts to Muay Thais, they're all up there. They fought 5 times. And this is an interesting one because everyone's going to Superlek on this. But they've fought 5 times, 3 wins to Pampayak, 1 win to Superlek and 1 draw. So it's interesting the way that, like, people that just follow it at that One Championship kind of international level, they don't always have the picture painted of, like, the guy's foundations. Because, like, when people are treating this as, like, a brand new fight, like, yeah, I've been looking at a lot of the Instagram kind of polls and a lot of the social media response, and the Western fans are all sold that it's Superlek's fight. Like, it's just kind of a given. But, like, Pampayak kind of, it's hard to say 5 fights, 3 wins Pampayak, 1 win Superlek, one draw. So it's obviously still every time's close. But yeah, Pambayak's beaten him 3 times before. So, I mean, I'd have to favour Pambayak in that regard.
And he seems like he's really taken to the one kind of format as well.
Yeah, but I find it interesting, like, so if you're keen to really get an understanding of this fight, just go and watch all 5 of their fights. All really good, all good chess matches, and it was that kind of... Both are kind of like sort of femur stylists, I guess. Like, they're technical, they like to... And both are big kickers, and this was interesting because Superlek really likes to kick. Don't they call Superlek? Like, you know how one makes up nicknames for the fighters? Like, I think they call Superlek the kicking machine in one championship. Or do they call Pambayak the kicking machine?
I don't know, it doesn't sound very imaginative though, but...
Yeah, pretty crap. But someone in this equation, when they come out in one, they call it the kicking machine. Both train at a like real foundation Thailand camps. Like Superlek trains at Kiat Munai and Pambayak at Jitmang. So like real Thai. And camps that have always had a strong presence in the real stadiums. But they thought it's interesting to watch, like especially in the first fight. I thought this would have been back in 2015, so they've been fighting each other for a few years now. I thought it was a matter of like Superlek really likes to sit and throw those speed kicks, but Pambayak is that really tall, rangy style and likes to kick long as well. So if they're having a kick battle, Pambayak's probably favoured there. So Superlek had to play a slightly different game and kind of try to do a bit of the Muay Thai thing a little bit more. Like he was trying to walk through that space and sit in the pocket and take Pambayak's ability to kick away. And a lot about, it looked quite different to how you typically see Superlek fight. Like he was trying to tie up, lock, and really just hold Pambayak in place and control those clinches, shut him down and land a few knees. So it was interesting to watch. And then Pambayak started to kind of figure it out throughout that fight, kind of make space with like just opposing clinching strategies, like really try to pry an army cross face and make some space, elbow and knee, and also was starting to kind of put those kind of knee bars and blocks up to just stop, kind of shut down those advances from Superlek. But they would both have their moments and initially fought to a draw. But then you can watch for a couple of fights. Pambayak starts to kind of, like every fight, it's almost like round 1 to 5, and then, 6 to 10. And then, like because you can see, and this is one of the coolest things about going back and watching like a rivalry like that, is you watch how they just make little tweaks. But I thought, Pambayak started like kind of in that second fight to sort of shut down that clinching offense rather than fighting it off to make space when the lock was already on. Kind of really started to be there, ready to put something in the way of Superlek before he come in and engage that clinch. And then that's why Pambayak got the points in the second fight, was because he was there to kind of shut down that entry and land a counter. And then it kind of built that way through the next fight as well, because Pambayak beat him twice in a row. It was a lot about, then Pambayak started to get a lot busier with his offense. Like he started to kind of be there with his hands and make, not just kind of engage Superlek when he pressed him, but make him fight him in the mid-range and then be there with a kick and stuff like that, kind of setting his work a little bit better. So you can see him kind of flip it and start to beat, because Pambayak really likes to kind of move back to the ropes and land the kick, but moving back against that pressure of Superlek wasn't working. So he had to just be there to kind of do some work, create the opportunities to counter. So do some work, make Superlek start to really fight him and then land his counter shot. And then, you can kind of feel as well that the fourth time they fought, then there was kind of that little bit of complacency in Pambayak's style, because Superlek just managed to cinch it, like it was really close in that latter round. Yeah, just did a little bit better of that work, started to get a hold of those clinching exchanges and land better knees. And also, like, he just started to kind of play on the style that Pambayak had set in the last fight, like fight at that mid-range, get that kick out of Pambayak. Because Pambayak would start to kind of play the game where he'd just slide away from the kicks and not quite be there. And then Superlek's kind of pressure was not so much of an issue, because he would let Superlek overthrow by just sliding all the way out of the way. And then when they would tie up in the clinch, he would have the positional advantage because he just kind of drawn an attack out of Superlek. But then Superlek kind of started to, it was just always, each fight was a matter of one man starting to think a step beyond it, because then it kind of became Superlek would start to go kick for kick with Pambayak a little bit more, like let that kick come and kind of just be that little bit more agile on his feet, let Pambayak kick, and started to win some kick-for-kick battles by not trying to... In the early goings of a lot of the fights, it was like when Superlek's kind of trying to block and kick back, it just favours Pambayak too much because his legs are longer. But it was just a matter of, letting... Because Pambayak came into this fourth fight so comfortable after beating him a couple of times in a row that he would kind of get maybe a little bit too sure of his kicks, and that let Superlek kind of just it was just real smart counter fighting, just being that last set, winning the exchange and then getting out. Like, when he had been spending the fights, engaging, it became a matter of choosing when, like the difference maker was choosing when to get out. Like, just land a kick and then don't let Pampa come back with another one and go kick for kick, because eventually it starts to favour the longer man, so he would just do his work and move. Then the end of that fight, like the fight that Superlek got the win, Pampa started to play a different game because he was actually down on points coming into the fifth, so we saw a lot more physicality from Pampa. So, and really started to kind of wrestle in those clinches, and I think that was a fight where you get a feel for how physically strong Pampayak is, because he's such like a laid-back counter fighter. It became a different game when he starts really trying to get those couple of scores to swing it back his way. It's just like that different level, and that was a lot more what you saw. The fifth time the two guys fought with Pampayak, got back on the winning track, was started to really assert himself that little bit more, and it's very interesting to watch two guys fight when they've had 4 or 5 fights to work each other out. Like, you don't see this in any other combat sport.
25 rounds of work on each other.
Yeah, 100%. It's really interesting. And now we've got this different thing. Both have come to one. I don't know who I'd say I favour more. Like, one of the moves Pampayak kind of has been famous for in one is one that you saw a lot, in particular the third time he fought Superlek, is that rear-leg teep. Like, he's real good at kind of teeping an oncoming fighter off their feet. Like, that was the first time that Pampayak got the win. Like, after that draw, that was kind of the main difference when Superlek was trying to close that space. He really has a lot spring-loaded, kind of almost lunging rear leg teep. And it comes high, kind of to the chest, and just floors people. Like, he's done it in one a couple of times. Like, that's kind of like the picture moment. But has done it at, the elite stadium level 2 against Superlek. I don't know who the style favours here. I think maybe... I don't know. Maybe Superlek. Maybe. Actually, I think it's probably pretty even. Both adapt well to the style. I don't know if I'd give the rule. Maybe Superlek because he likes to come forward a little bit more than Pampayak does for the scoring. I'd probably say, based on those last few fights, the way that Superlek likes to fight in that kind of smothering pressure style to take away the kick. Probably favours him in the little gloves and his ability to lock a little bit better in the clinch. Yeah, neither guys are habitual, favourable 3-round fighters, so that's kind of probably the drawback. Like, I'd like to see the two fight for 5 more rounds, but I guess I've already had 25 of it, so I can't be greedy. So yeah, this one's hard pick. I would lean towards Pampayak though, because like they've had they've fought 5 times, right? Like, so yeah, probably go Pampayak.
Okay.
Pampayak 1 point.
It's decided.
But yeah, I think this is a really cool. If there's anything that makes kind of this pretty shitty time for fights cool, it's that we're getting, like, it's so rare to see elite level Thai versus Thai fights on an international stage like one. So I think this could be the new era that we really start to see the honest best versus best fights rather than multiple Thais being in the same weight classes and just continuing to fight a grade below where they fit. So yeah, I'm super keen for this card, and see whatever else they come out with.
Yeah,
like none of the future cards have fights yet. There'll probably be an announcement on this show. Yeah, I'm stoked for these fights. That's why I have.
But I imagine they'll just try and make it last as well, because 5 fights from here, and I guess there's no crowds either, just like they're doing in some of the stadium fights as well. So which is good. It's nice, easy. Boom,
they do that one Hero Series thing. Is that in Thailand?
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I think they've done that. So
they've done Singapore and things like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, they've done the crowdless thing before. Probably the same format. What I like about their crowdless thing is it's not like in an empty arena. Like, it's actually it looks deliberately crowdless. So it's like that battle in Muay Thai show in Japan was it saying empty arena is weird, but purpose built crowdless sort of facility kind of feels sort of cool. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
definitely. So if you deleted your one app this time to reinstall it again, which is probably just to a YouTube link anyway.
Yeah, it is a YouTube link. It doesn't do anything.
But it's going to be this coming Friday on the 31st, with the time difference, of course, from there. But if you download the app, they usually have a countdown, and you can just follow that. But yeah, definitely get on that one.
They'll probably I think it starts at 7:30, so we'll start 10:30 our time.
That's all right. And if it's a short card...
Yes, that's what I mean, short card. Usually it's okay, the one thing starts at 10, but you're nothing I care about will be on until...
Might start earlier. Is that 2 hours behind?
I think 3. 3.
Three?
Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, definitely get onto that.
Yeah, get onto that.
Alright, let's go from there. There's a little bit of jiu-jitsu stuff that's happened as well.
Happened. There's still jiu-jitsu going on, like Submission Underground. Chalson sort of like built up Craig Jones to be the star of that, and he's been quite successful at it. And there's been some good. The last one I got about halfway through it. There were some pretty decent matches in that. So yeah, that was fun. I mean, sometimes you get those matches where there's a bit of stalling and it's a bit boring. But yeah, the last few I watched were pretty technical, fun bouts.
What did you reckon about that Craig Jones one? It looked like the referee thought he tapped.
Was it? What was that one? That was the verbal.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like
he tried to say it was a verbal tap because I think what happened was, what was it? He was under some sort of pressure. Did he have the rear triangle on him? I'm not too sure.
Oh, it was almost like he's starting back. It was like it was like a crank. It wasn't really a choke.
No. Yeah, I think he said he had the rear triangle on, so he sort of body locked him, and it was like, and he was trying to get out of it. And the referee, under that rule set, would count that as a verbal submission. So it's a verbal tap. I don't think it was. And I think, I heard some people say they should change the rule set. So if you're verbally tapping, you should say the words tap, tap, tap. Like I make my students say it. I say, don't be shy. If you can't tap on your opponent or tap on the ground or make a noise, they might not hear you or feel you do it, and they keep going and crank it, and then something's going to break. But if you say the words tap, 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 that's just like, it's like a safety word. Yeah. You know what I'm getting at. It's like it's just safe practice. But I think if they make it like it's strict in a rule set like that, you have to say the words tap or tap. There's none of that ambiguity. Because he was trying to hit and escape and move, and it was just making that. It was like some sort of grunt. It was like like that. And I've heard like in ADCC rule set, people like in the trials. I was at the trials a couple of years ago, and I think someone got they lost because of a similar situation where they made a noise and it sounded like they were in some sort of pain or something like or some sort of stress and strain. And then it's just like, nah, that's it. That's a verbal tap. So I don't agree with it. I think it needs to be clearer.
Well, that's happened in MMA too, right? I think Chael Sonnen versus Paulo Filho in the WEC. I think, like Paulo Filho got a submission and then the ref ruled a verbal submission that, like, just because he made a sound, not...
Yeah, I think it's dodgy. When you're at that professional level, these guys are all like professional elite athletes. You've got to make it clearer than that. Yeah, really. So yeah, I didn't agree with it, but it is what it is. It was under those rule sets the ref could make that call.
Yeah, well, it's like same thing. Like they'll tell you if they're going to be tapping or not.
Yeah.
Because especially with a lot of the professional fighters and that, they'll just let shit break as well.
That's right. we heard Craig Jones. He said it himself to us. They're psychopaths at that level.
Yeah.
They are. You can have someone in a straight ankle lock and they will just let it go. Mm-hmm. They will just let it break. They do not care.
So I had a floppy foot for a couple months, but that's all.
Yeah, that's it. I think Gordon Ryan admitted after he did that EBI match with Craig Jones, I think he admitted, because Craig Jones had him in the deepest armbar and Gordon Ryan's very good at escaping them. Like, they drill it a lot. I think he admitted afterwards he popped his elbow.
Yeah.
Didn't tap.
Or like Craig Jones against Viggy Margalesh, and he turned his foot the other direction.
Yeah. He fractured his is it the fibula?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something you don't want to fracture.
It's great, but you see Benny Myers doesn't even change his expression, foot's facing the wrong way and just go, and then let's continue. Keep going.
Yeah. I think Craig Jones actually stopped that match himself because he heard and felt it crack and he just went, oh shit, ref.
I've done my job.
Yeah. Can we stop this before I kill him?
Mm-hmm.
Not from a broken leg, but you know what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah. And what was the other thing I watched? I wanted to watch the Polaris tournament. I heard that was actually pretty good. I didn't get a chance to watch it. Work commitments. I hate my job.
Work. Just get in the way.
But I did get through Eddie Bravo's new event. Jiu-Jitsu Overtime.
Was that stupid? Like, I don't know about Jiu-Jitsu, but I read a lot of people say it was really stupid.
The concept, I think, is weird. And so it's basically EBI rule set, but take away all of the part that leads up to the overtime. So you literally, it's positional sparring. So it's a really good way to get good at a specific submission or control or move in jiu-jitsu. You start your sparring match, like full-on sparring, from that specific position, and the top athletes get really good really quickly by doing that. So in the EBI rules, when you you have your 10 minutes, and if there's no submission or whatever, because they don't use decisions in EBI, no submission, no clear winner, they go to overtime, and then the ref tosses a coin, and whoever wins the coin toss, they get to decide where they want to start. And they've got the choice of back control, like in the seatbelt position, or in the armbar position. From there, they call it the spider web, when they're sort of leaning under the arm and controlling it like that. However, they can pick the control, but it's going to be spider web like that sort of armbar control. But it's kind of like the way they did it in Jiu-Jitsu Overtime. The commentators described it as like a dunking shootout in basketball. So it's like a shootout, you know, which is fine. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to watch another 16-man tournament just with overtime shootout. And I was grateful they had a couple of, they had one that was in EBI rule set. That was Grace Gundram and I forgot the name of her other opponent. She became a bit of a star going up through EBI promotions. She went against Danielle Kelly. So she's a fresh black belt under one of the Henzo Racing affiliated gyms, I think. That was Silver Fox gym. They're pretty well known, I think. But with Grace Gundram, they did the full EBI 10 minutes. Then they went into the overtime, and then I think that was escape time, quickest escape time. So if there's no clear submission in the overtime, it's whoever's got the total amount of escape time, the smallest amount, the shortest escape. So, I mean, it sounds like, it kind of went into overtime for about 5 overtime rounds or whatever, it was boring, but it was actually a really good, fast, technical match. I enjoyed watching it. I actually enjoy EBI, but I understand the criticism for it as well. The ability to stall out and get to overtime, where that's your strength. I get it, but at the same time, nobody wants to watch a draw like in Metamoris or anything like that. You know, the Metamoris draw just kind of like puts a damper on it.
Yeah.
But with EBI, like, you know, some of the professional athletes didn't want to compete in it just because you can win $20,000 or you get $0.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with them. I mean, if I was at that level, I wouldn't want to potentially compete and go through all that effort and go through all those brackets to get $0. You know, I think they should have a baseline salary for them.
Yeah.
And then if they go into overtime, they don't get those bonuses. But they should get paid something. These guys are pro athletes, you know.
It's like, especially like those kind of events, they've been drawing some sort of money.
Yeah.
So it's like, and maybe it's what they're just going to go, they start going, well, if I'm seeing Gary Tone or Gordon Wright or Craig Jones on one end of the bracket, I'm just like, think of that. I don't do that.
I've seen this in like Muay Thai and kickboxing, or also kickboxing, where there'll be like a mid-tier event will be like, we've got an 8-man, and it's a $20,000 prize pool, and they'll kind of be like, so what do you want to do? $20,000 winner take all, or like a tiered, like maybe 10 for the winner and X amount for that, and like fighters will always say just do the prize pool, do the pool there,
give me the biggest one,
because according to everyone, they're the person who's winning, so they'll be like, fuck everything else.
I
get it though, like.
And it's meant to be an incentive to push harder for the submission and for the win and put on exciting matches. You know, I understand that, but you're not going to draw big names. You're not going to draw Craig Jones and Gordon Ryan and Gary Tone. They've all Lachlan Giles was in it as well, and it's like you'd definitely watch all those guys in an EBI tournament. I know I would, even a couple of their names, I'd still watch it 100%. You take out that equation and the appeal, you're still going to see very good competitors, but you're still not going to see that upper echelon. You know, so I think it's a mistake to pay them that way. But I do appreciate the EBI rules there, and I understand what Bravo is trying to do with it, and I like it, and I do think it's fun to watch. Just watching positional sparring for a 16-round bracket, but Grace Gundrum, she was good. She took out the win, and Eddie Bravo gave her black belt at the end of it. So that was cool.
Like, you know,
it was.
It's like, you know, junior black belts go. You see, that's legit. Like, even if she's...
She's 18 now.
Yeah, it's like, but like, to go, she's legit.
She's legit. Yeah, she's taken out some really big names, like legit world champions in her grappling career. So, yeah, it was fun from that perspective. I mean, I watched it all because it's a new format and everything, but...
Give it a chance.
Yeah, you give it a chance. I like what they did with Quintet Ultra. They sort of had, I think it was 10 minutes. They had a time limit, fixed time limit, and... You don't necessarily win by submission, you win by the most number of submissions. So it goes the full 10 minute, whoever's got the most submissions is the winner. If it's a tie or equal tie, it's a sudden death. So,
okay.
That takes out all of that back control, seatbelt, spider web kind of stuff.
I think that's a bit better doing it, actually. It's like, you know, submission, like, you know, that's in, like, it's like the knockout punch. But, like, even, like, just doing that form, it's like, your submission, all right, let's go, start again.
Yeah.
Let's keep going. That's cool.
Quintet is probably, outside of EBI, it's my favourite modern format. I like that team format. It diversifies things a little bit. Having teams with a maximum weight, it makes it more interesting. And taking out, he took out heel hooks. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but formatting it so you have to get that submission and you can't game it as easily. So anyway, that was Jiu-Jitsu Overtime. I don't know if I'd watch it again.
Yes, you would.
You reckon I would?
If there's nothing else.
Well,
it's not like would you watch it, it's like would you be enthusiastic about it?
It's like, I guess I'll watch it.
I can jump to the highlights. Yeah.
I don't know, any Bravo seems just like, you know, like the first product, EBI, I think that was gold. And like, probably pay structure could be better and things like that. And then, like, you know, it came out with Combat Jiu-Jitsu.
I swear, I tried to watch Combat Jiu-Jitsu. I gave it a good chance. I watched the whole first one, and then by the second one, I made it halfway through. And after that, I'm just like, this is not Jiu-Jitsu. I know they're trying to say it's based on that old self-defense principle of, you've got the strikes in there to make it more realistic.
But then why don't you just have an MMA fight?
Exactly! I want to watch
what are we
MMA.
doing?
What are we doing here?
It's
not Jiu-Jitsu, it's not MMA.
But that was saying, like, he goes, oh, it's a good, like, way the code build up. It's like, that's what amateur MMA is for.
Anyway, for me, Combat Jiu-Jitsu is not exciting. Jiu-Jitsu Overtime. Positional sparring.
It's like, Eddie, you're just onto a good thing here. Don't try and replicate it. Because, you don't get many times to do this.
I know Eddie Bravo is watching, so please just bring back EBI format.
Is there much else going on in the Jiu-Jitsu world?
There probably is.
Yeah. But it's
yeah, but I'm just like, they were the more prominent ones. Fight to Win Pro still going on, and Flow Grappling, who I'm paying, I'm never getting to watch any of the content.
Well, I guess, like, in terms of grappling, if continue on, like, going a little bit into the MMA territory now, actually, like, the event that was on the other weekend, like, Figueiredo versus Benavidez for the flyweight title for the second time. Figueiredo actually made weight eventually for this one, which is kind of like a disturbing thing to think, like, he won, fucking beat down Benavidez. But, like, it's like, flyweight's one of those ones that goes, I don't know, man. Like, is it going to stick around? Can your champion make weight consistently?
Yeah, that's always been kind of the worst thing for flyweight. It's been like, it always seems to be the guy at the top can just barely make. Not actually, that's not exactly true. Like, because the DJ could always make flyweight pretty comfortably. But, like, there's always been, like, Cejudo always struggled to make flyweight to the point where he, like, in his career was flyweight and then got forced up to 135 and then came back down and then moved up again. Figueiredo really struggles to make it. But it's also just like it's that kind of weight class that people outgrow. Like, it's really hard. Like, flyweight's 57 kilos.
Once they get out of their teenage stage and become a man.
Yeah, that's right. They start to fill out a little bit, get more hair. Voice breaks.
but yeah, I gotta feel bad for Joe V though. Like, 25th time going for a title.
Yeah. And
he got stomped out.
Yeah, it's also like the trouble with this one is kind of like it's his fourth or fifth title shot. but it's also like he wasn't like he's kind of getting to the back end now, and was like it was sort of a title fight out of necessity. Like it's not like it was like this is the logical step. So put Joe back in. They just need it. Like he's always towards the top, and Cejudo gave the title up basically. Like he was in the title fight by default, not really.
It was just vacant. And
like,
these are the guys that like are in the area.
But it's like DJ's gone, Cejudo's gone. You know, like that's why
it's pretty empty, man. Like flyweight's one of those ones where it's like if you had to get rid of like UFC's looking at it and go, all right, we have to get rid of the division. There's no kind of question.
Nah, women's flyweight.
I completely forgot.
Flyweight's worse.
I totally forgot that was the title fight. That fight.
Oh yeah.
They did not promote it. Fucking at all.
Actually, women's featherweight is worse than women's flyweight.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, it was good. It was good to see Davison get a belt, but like it was a good submission too. That was tight. He didn't just put on that rear naked show.
Well, like he put it on a few times as well. Like a few times that I was watching better videos, and like he wasn't like fighting hands. He was just trying to get the hooks out. I go, I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Yeah. But he toughed out a few of them though. Yeah,
I was impressed. I thought he was definitely gone in the first few attempts because, like you were saying, he's fighting the hooks, but defend the choke. I always thought defend the choke first and then fight out because you're not going to do much fighting if you're unconscious.
Yeah.
That was pretty ugly, man.
Yeah.
Feel bad for Joe.
Well, it was like, Joe, he just, like, when it first started, it was like, it seems like MMA goes through those trends where they go, this is the technique of the year, the low calf kick.
Yeah.
And then, like, he just got clanged on top of that kick when he threw it there, and then it just went downhill after that.
Yeah, that's pretty ugly.
Yeah, ugly side of MMA. I didn't know Benavidez was married to Megan Oliveri. Is it
Olivi?
Olivi, yeah. I didn't know he was married to her until I saw all the really ugly memes coming out. I'm like, what's this?
Jesus, MMA.
Yeah.
Guys, is that really funny? That was
fucking weird. Today.
I would never say MMA fans are morons, as you know.
No. No, we've got nice fans who are MMA supporters.
Well, it's like, I guess, like in Australia from there, because it's not like, that big a thing.
Yeah.
But like over there, like,
Yeah, it's like American casual sports fans that are watching MMA. Yeah. They just went at Joe B's wife.
Yeah.
On Twitter for reasons.
Well,
reasons unknown.
Tweets. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there.
And she just tweets out like a support message, like just saying she loves her husband.
Yeah,
like, haha, look at this picture of him getting choked.
What a bitch telling the world that she loves her husband.
Really, really, like I just didn't understand it.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a little bit nauseating, actually.
Yeah, it was like pretty uncomfortable response.
But like figure eight, like that choke from there, like damn, it looked nasty.
Yeah,
like it was out. He actually went out. Yeah. Joe B?
Yeah, he was out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. His eyes rolling back into his head and everything. Yeah.
It was getting worse than that. Like, you can see just the full, like, hips in, twisting
up. Oh, yeah. Arching his back into it, too. He was, oh, man. I've had that done to me. It's not fun.
Well, like, there was a couple of good submissions on that card as well. Like, even, like, the co-main event, so Jack Manson versus Kelvin Gastelum from there. And, like, it just, Manson is, like, savage. First couple rounds from that, and his grappling game's really good. Like, he's, like, talked about before, like he's actually had the Danaher Death Squad at his place, and like he seems to be very inspired by him. Yeah, you can see that. I mean, Gastelum got the double unders on him and body locked him, didn't he? He got the takedown, which led into the heel hook, didn't it? Yeah. Well, it's like when they kind of like cinch up, you could see like Jimenez's game is the grappling because like fuck, he submitted Jacare. Yeah. And that really guillotine choke, but like it was a good like switch up by Gastelum. Like Hanson's trying to go for trip down, and then he just did that like was it like a lateral drop, was it? Yeah, I think he body locked him and just turned him over onto the ground, like a bit like a sacrifice throw kind of thing. But I've got to give it to Manson, the way he transitioned into that heel hook. That was like I kind of thought Gastelum would get out of that, but he was like with the heel hooks, you've got to get your knee out of their opponent's knee line, otherwise they're going to crank it on. And I thought, you watch guys like Vinny Margulies, and they sort of stand up, and they don't attack the hands that are making the grip and the control. They attack the legs. So if they attack the opponent's legs, they can get their knee through and escape and turn out of it. But he didn't get there. I'm just going from memory. I've only watched it once, but I remember watching it and thinking at the time, maybe you should stop attacking the grips and turn out of it. It was too late. He sunk it in really deep and he cranked it on there.
Yeah.
Hey, didn't he ever?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then another meme-worthy submission was it Ariane Lipski?
Yeah, that shit was ugly.
Yeah, it's and the two Brazilian girls got it, Luna, Carolina. So Luna was on the, probably not saying it right, Lunina was on the bottom there, go for a calf slicer, which is a weird move in general as well, in MMA, especially in an MMA fight.
Yeah, it's not the first thing you think of.
Yeah.
Because if someone's trying to put in a pain compliance kind of submission, and I'm allowed to punch them in the face, I'll punch them in the face.
It seems like a very low kind of finishing move, but I can get it, in terms of trying to use it as a sweep or trying to change position, but she was just trying to just so focused on it that this was on top, just kind of turns and goes, I'll just grab this leg.
Yeah.
And do this disgusting knee bar.
That's right. Yeah. I'm going to hug the leg, grab the ankle, and sit back and let gravity pop your knee out.
There's a few photos going around that one, you can see the knees just high.
Yeah, that was gross.
Yeah. Banana bending the wrong way.
Yeah, so that was another, a really good one there. From that, I'm sure I was going to talk about. Was it on this card? Was it just happening? Oh, yeah, Fiziev. Whew. I like to watch that guy now. Rafael Fiziev.
Fiziev's good.
Against Mark DeCasey. Fight. I do recommend going and watching that one. So, little known fact, if, Rafael Fiziev is, out of Tiger Muay Thai, is Peter Yan's striking coach as well. So, and you can see Peter Yan, when he fought Aldo from there, that was a classic, that was a great fight.
Yeah, it was.
And, and saying it was Aldo actually looked great. Until it didn't.
Yeah.
And you can see from and Fiziev as well, he has has this little trademark, doesn't he?
Yeah, the lean back.
Yeah, he done it in Max Muay Thai beforehand.
Yeah, or I can't remember exactly because he went everyone's seen it, this viral video of
because the Matrix style lean back.
But because he's leaning back, but he's actually not a head kick. He leans back over the high kick, and the kick's coming to the body, but he just keeps leaning. It's a full
just doesn't
lean back and listen. But this was when I saw all the pictures of him leaning back from JKC's kicks, I was like, that's okay. But have you seen the other time?
JKC was literally trying to go for the head, and he's doing pretty mean.
It was a fine lean back, but I was like, there's more.
even more insane.
Yeah. Because the other thing was JKC wasn't kicking very well. He was half kicking. Because you can see, if you throw a good committed kick, you kind of go over with it at the end. This one was kind of he was holding on to it a little bit. That's why I was leaning back if you look at the way he recovers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's I think as well for JKC's case, because he was getting fucking lit up.
Yeah.
Body kicks. He's just one that goes, I don't think I want to get in a kicking battle.
He was already kind of unsure,
Yeah. But the bodyweight buff Fiziev as well. The body kicks were disgusting. The sound. It's it's even more amplified because it's an empty.
Yeah. It's just that slapping sound.
Yeah. You can even
best part about the empty.
Right? Yeah. It's you can even Bisbeen's going, oh, yeah. Jesus, those are big kicks.
Yeah, Fiziev's really good to watch.
Yeah.
Good to see him getting a bit of shine. But he's super experienced as well. He's one of these dudes who had 200 amateur.
Yeah.
Sort of kickboxing and Muay Thai fights, and then was kind of busy on the Muay Thai scene in Thailand for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually didn't even know he was kind of at that. I knew he fought MMA, but I didn't know till he made it to the UFC that he was kind of at that level in MMA.
Right. I'm trying to pull the thing. He's only had one loss in the UFC so far. I forget who it was against, but
how many fights has he had there now?
Maybe 4.
Okay.
Something like that. I only got 3G at the moment, so I can't look up anything. Or whatever. But going from there, the last couple of seasons have been not too bad. And this video won't get out before Till versus Whittaker. That's on tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's another great fight. Gustafsson versus Verdum, which is a heavyweight, which is
Thick Gustafsson.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't
Verdum, didn't he piss hot?
Everyone has.
I thought he had a 4 or 5 year ban.
It's fine, Ireland, baby. No one.
International warfare.
I swear to God, I see him appear on the card. I'm like, I know you've got a 4 or 5 year ban. How did you get out of that? Anyway.
But also as well, this is Verdum's last fight in his contract, and he said he's not renewing it because that part of my life. So going into the fight, I'm just going, fuck, whatever. It's
he's 42 now, isn't he?
And Gustafsson's coming out of retirement and looking smooth.
Yeah.
He doesn't look unhealthy. He looks
Yeah. Well, he used to fight at 205 and he weighed in 245.
240. Yeah.
Whew, that's a fair weight difference.
Yeah.
From there. I would have expected maybe 230 low, high 220s and like be like
Yeah.
a mobile heavyweight, but seems like he just goes, no, I'm packing it.
Yeah.
On.
And Shogun versus Nagara 3.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Have we gone back in time 15 years?
The way back when machine.
Is that Little Nog or Big Nog?
That's what
Little Nog, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, big nog.
I have to check. Because Big Nog, I'm like, he definitely retired.
No, no, they're fighting for the third time. And yeah, they
Yeah.
did fight for the first time 15 years ago.
And
Yeah.
legit, like, I'm pretty sure Shogun's only fought like twice or something in the last 4 years.
Shogun hasn't been busy, no.
Mm.
He's been winning though. He's won. He had like that pretty ugly loss against Corey.
Oh,
what's his
Anderson.
name?
Yeah.
Kerry Anderson.
No,
Oh,
who was that? That liner. Oh, Anthony.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fair
Yeah.
enough then.
And that was pretty ugly. But he's got some wins.
Yeah, and look, in terms of like,
Like he's not on a massive skill.
yeah, the opposition as well is like, you know, hey,
I think Shogun.
it's fine.
Well, you got a few things. Like Shogun's been busier, but he hasn't been busy, and he's still winning. And when they were both at the height of their powers, he won. So you'd probably think if they've deteriorated at the same rate, Shogun wins. Like Shogun was the more skillful fighter to begin with.
It's the Masters division.
It
It is. But I mean, like, this is what I think. Like, if they're going to keep fighting, these are the fights.
Yeah, of course.
Like, I hate watching, like, an old legend just get smashed.
Yeah,
by
that's
nothing.
shit.
Like get the put over, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Like, if Mike Tyson wants to come back,
well,
he fights for a Jones
Who's Anderson Silva going up against next?
Anthony Pettis, allegedly.
So that's not a done
Pettis
deal?
will be-
Nah, that's like, Pettis said, T would be sick if I fought Anderson Silva at middleweight.
Oh.
And Anderson obviously said, sure.
Yeah.
And now, like, the fan posters coming out, like,
okay.
they both seem keen.
But like, yeah, UFC would just go, why not?
Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. But then you got a dude who fought for the featherweight title
Mm.
at one time versus a dude who's KO'd light heavyweights.
Mm.
Like both in their career, Anthony Pettis has fought, like in the last few years really, Pettis has fought at 66 kilos and Anderson's fought at 93.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anderson
And
would
somehow they're
They're going to come together. Yeah.
it's like it'd be like Slender Man versus some known.
Yeah.
Just like the size would be
It's a
massive.
UFC 4.
But people are
Matchup.
like, people are like in the comments like, can you make 185 to Pettis? And he's like, yes, I'm on my now. Like, yeah, you
Yeah, on
can. Should you? He's like,
That's the question.
And also, what do you guys think of Tyson versus Roy James
Yeah, that's
Jr.?
what touched on there. It's like, hey,
I agree with this. Like, yeah,
an 8-round exhibition match.
bigger class.
But like, it's one of those ones. Like, it's like I think when it's like Luke Thomas was like trying, he interviewed Roy Jones about it, and like didn't get clear answer. So what's the deal? You just fucking around for 8 rounds, or you're gonna have an actual go from there? And like, I don't know. Like, it'd be very interesting if they go like, yeah, you know what? Let's have a crack.
Yeah.
8 rounds though. I'm even thinking like 8 rounds. Go, that's even like a little bit too long.
Yeah, I would have done like. Well, I thought like when Tyson like those training videos came out, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting back in shape," and his thing was, "I want to be ready for kind of 4-round exhibitions. Like, I'm not making a comeback. I want to do a 4-round exhibition fight." So it's already double work.
It's 53 years old. How old was Roy James Jr.?
Oh, I don't know.
He's similar in age.
Yeah,
Similar
it
age,
wasn't too far off at all.
Yeah, they're only a couple of years different. Roy Jones Jr. kept fighting till he was a lot older though.
Yeah,
Like he didn't fight that long ago.
I don't know.
A year and a half ago.
Yeah.
There's just a part of me that just goes, oh, stop, man. You're relatively healthy.
Yeah.
You're fit. Just
Well, even
why
like
do it?
Tyson now looking good.
He does look good.
Very good.
But he wants to stay in that condition.
Yeah.
I like how they're both signing the stuff over Skype or whatever, like Jones and Mike Tyson there got fucking fat ass joint. Dang.
I'm down with it though. Like
Yeah,
I don't
the
want to
big
watch either of them fight. It's the same thing. I don't want to like if boxers in their 50s want to fight, like, and you have two of them, have them fight each other. Like, don't have them fight young guys.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's gonna be a weird card as well because like there's like one undercard fight on there that it's like I've tried to look it up and like I said I got free GM so I'm not even gonna bother.
Mine's not working either.
But like one of the undercard matches is Jake Paul, a YouTube personality, and they're versus like a former NBA forward or guard. Can't remember his name, but it's just like it's weird. It's bizarre. From that one, it's like we'll just throw this one together. So we've got Tyson joining us. It's like let's put this YouTube guy versus this NBA player.
It's like getting a Kardashian into fight. It's just completely random.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
But I think like the thing that you've always got to say in these times, it is Nate Robinson is the gentleman's name. it's like this wouldn't be happening if a lot of people weren't going to watch it.
Yeah.
So like you can't really like I find like that Luke Thomas take is always like I understand it, but like supply and demand. You know, like these are like when what was it? I have lost touch with the kids. What was the Paul? Which Paul fought that?
Logan
Paul
KSI.
versus KSI, yes, whatever that
Paul
is.
Logan? Logan Paul.
Yeah, like they sold out a fucking arena for how many rounds was that as well? Like
3, 4.
yeah, they sold out an arena also when they were fighting in headgear,
Yeah.
and they opted to rematch in a professional format. Like you can say it's stupid, but like I don't know, they're like obviously good at promoting it. It's not like it's any work. Like you just tell you're weird.
Well, you can tell, like, you know, it's not going to be an ongoing thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, Tyson versus Roger. This is like a one-time deal.
Yeah.
Let's try and get as many eyes as we can on it.
Yeah. And it's also like, I'm not saying I liked, actually, I did not like it. I didn't watch the fight. Not in its entirety anyway, the last time those YouTubers fought. But like, they get in some shape, right? Like they train up for these fights. Like,
There's probably no drug testing.
Oh yeah, fuck it, don't drug test it, no. That's it, nah. But like, to, I guess, play devil's advocate, like, it's not like you are watching it's almost admirable that two dudes with no combat sports experience, like, they go and do proper fight camps. Like, if you have to give it some positivity, like, at least they actually have a crack, like, to put something on. It's not like they treat it like, I guess they don't treat it like an outright money grab, like, they actually, and they go at it. Like, I've seen some highlights and shit. Like, it's not like they were trying to make idiots of the crowd. Like, you were actually watching a sporting contest. It's just not any kind of quality. Like, like, if you want to watch it, that's on you.
Yeah.
But it's also like, if you want to be somewhat positive to the YouTubers, at least they have a go.
They're putting themselves out there.
Like, they don't treat it as a novelty. Like, they actually box. It's just on you if you want to watch novices box on pay-per-view.
And who knows? Like, as well, like, you know, he put in some stuff online. He might get fucking knocked out in the first round.
He might.
And it's like, has that affect your YouTube career after that?
But it's also like, people make a spectacle of the promoters of this. It's like, if you don't think Dan White would sign Logan Paul, you're an idiot. Like,
well, how's that training he did with Paulo Costa? Got fucking murked.
If you don't think these dudes could be in the UFC if they wanted, then you have too much faith in.
Well, that's it. Fucking CM Punk can make it for the...
CM Punk made it.
Or before that, James Toney.
James Toney, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Circus, that's what I think.
Even if they lose, they'll just have like a comeback montage, like Rocky 4 or something.
That's it. Logan Paul versus Mickey Gall. Fuck.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
Why not?
Why not? In terms of like boxing coming up, that's actually good. Like, boxing seems a bit like there's been an announcement of, like, you know, 6 cards coming towards the end of the year in America. One match I'm really interested in is like Leo Santa Cruz versus Gervonta Davis. Wow, that's a great fight.
Yeah.
Like, look those guys up. Like, you know, their careers. That's a great fight to put together. The Charlie brothers are also coming back in action. They're also good to watch. In Australia, we have Tim Tszyu versus Jeff Horn.
Let's touch on that we were talking about the other day. How there's the debate between who makes the champions walk in this fight, who goes second, they can't figure it out. But, like, look, mate, like, someone who, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's any dispute. Jeff Horn walks second in this fight. Right? Like, I don't know, I know, like...
He's actually hit the upper echelon.
Like, this is how it works. Like, if you're on Tim Tszyu's promotional side, you want Tszyu to walk out first, because you're not trying to market your guy as the entering champion. You're trying to, like, this is the fight that you're trying to put Tszyu over, and you very well may. But you actually should want Tim in the ring first, and have the established, you know, the veteran, the champion, the world-travelled guy come out second, and then you're trying to show that you're trying to build a new star. Like, I actually think it's counterproductive from the Tszyu side to say we should be coming out second, because you're trying to change just trying to shift the
narrative.
The narrative. Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah, like, you're trying to shift the narrative and say I'm already. You're trying to put your guy over, but also, like, Tim Tszyu's biggest wins are domestic, and he's a regional champion. Like, Jeff Horn's beaten Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
Like, he walked second. Like, I'm not saying he's the better fighter or he's the favourite necessarily. Yeah, but he's the he's the A side.
He's hit the pinnacle.
Yeah, I don't get even the dispute. But it's just it's quite I don't know. It's just the way it goes. Like it's like the up and comer comes out first. I don't understand
It's
this
like
dispute.
that's Seth Rogen. It's like no one knows what it means. It's provocative.
Yeah, I don't understand the debate, but also it's interesting to see like the fans' perspective is like Sue walk second, like the majority. I don't understand
What?
the debate. Yeah,
Okay.
like it's not like the most popular guy walk second. It's like typically it's the odds-on favourite. Like in a non-title fight, the odds-on favourite walks out second, and in the main event fight, the A side walks out second.
That's fair.
The champ, but I think the Horn makes the champions walk, and Sue makes the contenders walk. But I think that's how you should want it from a promotional side, because I think the most money comes out of this if Zoo wins in impressive fashion. I think would probably be fair.
Well, like I said, you got a marketable new commodity that's got plenty of years ahead of him.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
and it's like, and also like just kind of building off the Zoom name as well.
Yeah, and you frame it best if he comes out first, as in you know he's the contender. Like this is just how it's like how promotion works. I think that's what they'll land on though. Yeah, it's in Queensland too. Is also important. Yeah.
Well, like it's because it's in Queensland. I think a few fights actually fell off that card from there, but keeping the Zoo one, maybe he just has to get.
Is there a crowd? Is there a crowd?
I don't know actually if there's a crowd or not. I haven't seen if there's a crowd or not.
I started crowds in WA. Like I think they had 30,000 for an AFL match last week for the Derby.
Well, that'd be interesting to see if they actually in Queensland if they're allowed to have some sort of capacity.
Yeah,
done there.
I hadn't really thought about it.
But I think a lot they're just going to pay per view buys.
Yeah,
trying to do that. Will I buy it though?
You'll stream it. Just admit it.
Depends what night it is. I forget if it's going to be like one of those reruns. Is it going to be on Wednesday night?
I think it'll probably be midweek, but I haven't checked though.
You'll just go to one of those dodgy Russian streaming sites.
That's it.
No, but they won't be on there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think anyone maybe the Russians.
It depends on where they're broadcasting it. How many people care.
All right. Anything else?
Not from me.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's it.
Yeah, cool.
Are you picking Whittaker or?
Oh,
I can't decide.
I'm gonna go with the hometown boy. I'm gonna go with Whittaker.
Yeah.
Whittaker, Shogun, Gustafsson.
Whittaker, Shogun. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
so this will already be over by the time you hear this. So.
Yeah.
And you can berate us if
yes.
we're wrong, or you can go, you guys were right.
Yes. Most likely the latter.
Yeah, true. All right, cool. Thanks for listening to us. If you're in the earphones right now, you can also see the video version on YouTube at Combat Chat Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all other podcast platforms. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Combat Chat Podcast. Be sure to follow us, like a post, share them.
Tell your friends.
You see what I'm getting here with this?
Yeah.
And as always, we'll catch you next time. Okay? See ya.
Us.